Hi everybody, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. So, I got this heart-shaped Portulacaria Afra. I've never had one before. I never see them for sale around here, and it happened to be Valentine's Day, and they had this one for sale, so I don't exactly want a heart-shaped one, but I thought there might be something I could do with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off these wires because they basically just wired it up to be in the shape of a heart. So I'll go through and get the wires off. My thinking here is that if all goes to plan, there are basically two trunks, one going off to the left, one off to the right. So I can get two bonsais out of this and then make cuttings out of the rest, out of the top of both. So that's sort of my loose plan going into this. So full disclosure, I've never had this before. I don't really know much about them other than what I've seen in other people's YouTube videos. And I did some kind of light reading, just general Google type research. From what I understand, they're native out of South Africa. I always look to see where plants and trees are native from so I can, better understand the climate and conditions that they like. So these are native from South Africa. They're a succulent, really more than a tree. So they are drought tolerant. See, that'll make a good cutting right there. So the cuttings part really surprised me. As I did research, everything I read said that when you take a cutting, you let the cutting sit out for, I saw anywhere between 1 day and a week. So let's just say a few days. That just seems weird to me. I get it, it's a succulent, it's different than a tree, I understand. It's still weird to me to do that, but that's what I'm gonna try. Yeah, most trees, you take a cutting, you put the cutting in water, it sits in water for maybe a couple of weeks or more, grows roots, then you plant it. This is the opposite apparently. You actually want to let it dry out and kind of harden off. So, the current struggle here is trying to get these two guys apart. A lot of roots, kind of stringy roots, which I guess I would expect for something that is drought tolerant. So I wrestled with this thing for a long while. Most of it was off camera. And the rest of it is sped up at 2, 3, 4 times the normal speed. It took a while. The temptation as you're doing this, and anybody who's done something like this will probably tell you, as you're trying to pull them apart and it starts to get a little loose, the temptation is to sort of pull on it harder because you feel like you're making progress. And that's usually when things snap. So I was trying to be careful not to do that this time. The struggle is real, but it's going to come apart eventually, and it eventually does. And there we go. Finally. And I didn't have to snap it. So the roots aren't terrible on one. On the other, there's a lot of roots, but look at how they're shaped. So I had to ponder what to do there. So here are some of the cuttings that I took. I did this maybe a week ago, and I let them sit out for 2 or 3 days, and then I potted them up in just regular bonsai soil. I think those will make cool little trees if I do it right and they actually root. My weakness is the watering. When it comes to succulents, I don't have a ton of experience with them compared to trees, so I hope I don't overwater it. Anyways, here are the 2 pots I'm going with, red and blue, for the 2 main trunks. We'll start with red. So I try to sort out the roots, untangle them as best as I can. It was quite a tangled mess. But from what I understand about these, and again, not speaking from experience, just going off of what I gather from YouTube and whatnot, is that they do root from cuttings, and they do root really easily from cuttings. Like you can basically just cut all the roots off and plant it, and it would live somehow. So there it is once I trim it down to shape. So I didn't have a great plan as far as what I want this tree to be structured like, because it's kind of early for that. I really just trimmed up the branches down to the last 1 or 2 leaf sets, and then we'll figure out structure and style maybe a little later. For now, I'm just concentrating on what I'm doing here and making sure that I get all the pieces right. It is a new species to me after all. Fairly easy though. That's the other part I should say. Everything else I read did say this is an easy species to work with. And so far it has been. So the structuring will come later. I give it a decent watering. I water until I see some water drain out of the bottom. Just kind of hold it all together there. And now I'll do a little cleanup work on this giant nub at the top. Just like that. Just to kind of help smooth it out a little, or at least give it a little assist as it's smoothing out up top. I'll just clean up any branches that are growing downward or crisscrossing or just look goofy and out of place. And again, the structure part will come later. I usually look at a tree for a long time before I make big, decisive structural decisions. If I know I'm going to work on one, I'll bring it out and just kind of put it on my desk for, a week, 2 weeks, maybe more. Just kind of look at it as I'm working. I'm on the phone, staring at it, kind of thinking of different options. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. It's going to be in my office where I can see it and observe it and kind of just think about, which way do I want to go with this? I do think there's a lot of potential there. I don't think it's super duper pretty right now though. Let's give it some time before we start doting on it. But it's got the potential, assuming, I don't kill it from overwatering it and loving it too much. That is my sin with trees. I tinker with them, and if I see them start to suffer at all, get a little droopy. My first instinct is sunlight and water, usually. And you just can't do that with this one. They love sunlight, but not water. So it's going to be hard to just find the balance. In the meantime, let's figure out a plan for this weird guy. Look at the root system here. Where do I even go with that? Could do some kind of cascade or semi-cascade. Could do maybe a raft or something. But I don't want to do those because it's a little fancy for my taste right now, and it's a new species, so I'm going to stick to what I know. I think if I try to plane out that root base a little, I can just set it at a lean a little bit, and we'll just work on something from there. So when it's all said and done, this is kind of what I'm left with. Decent amount of roots, and I got it kind of planed out in a little different direction, something other than completely horizontal. Now, if you look at the angle I'm potting this at, I gotta say this went differently in my mind than it actually ends up looking. I'm not super happy with how it looks in the end. I don't hate it, but you'll see what I mean. It's kind of all off to one side, and you can't see the way the roots are. So when I was thinking about it as I was potting it up, I'm looking at the roots. I'm kind of seeing the balance between the way the roots are going and the trunk is leaning. And I had that in my mind, I guess. Once I potted it up and the roots were covered up, I'm like, it looks kind of goofy. All the way up to the right, leaning to the left, and then the branches leaning back to the right. It's a style. I'll give it that. It's a style. Anyway, same thing here. We'll just clean up some of these big nubs, those big cuts there. And I know I'm harping on the fact that I've never had this species before, but I'm only bringing it up again because I don't really know how they heal. I just don't know anything about that. Maybe they heal up fast, maybe slow. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with tons of experience, and that's fine. I'll get there too, but this is a trial and error run for me on this. I will say I think that they heal fast, just based on some of those cuttings. When I made the cuttings and I let them sit out for a few days, I saw the bottom of them where I made the cut did heal up and sort of closed off. So that was quick. I imagine it'll be the same on the rest of the cuts, but we'll see. Yeah, so there they are. Red and blue. Two completely different styles, but all part of the same heart. So it started as a Valentine's Day heart-shaped plant and it ended up as two little bonsais. That's what it started as right there. Hard to believe. So I put a few rocks in there just for decoration and also to help stabilize. Any experience that anyone has and would like to share, would love to hear it. Just most interested in, the watering part of things, I guess. Water cycles that you water it. How much do you water? Do you soak it? Do you give it a little spritz of water? That type of stuff. And I'll do a little research myself as well. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And like I said, leave me any comments that you have or anything that you can add. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.